Today we are pushing aeronautics and my sanity to the limit. These tunnels behind me were dug by an unmanned mining droid, designed to gather thousands of resources completely autonomously. Oh, and here it comes now. Wait, stop. No, stop. Wait. This is a regular Create Mod mining drill. It's a minecart contraption and they are very overpowered because you can add an infinitely large number of drills and power them for next to nothing. Look at this tiny little guy. He's not strong enough to push all that. And whilst they're very overpowered, the mining drills are a little tedious to use. You have to put them down, send them off, chase them, pick them up, offload all the resources when they get full, and don't get me started on how many times I've ended up swimming in a pool of lava. So what mining options does Aeronautics give us? As you can see from this vehicle graveyard behind me, I have spent the last couple of weeks playing around with the mining features of Aeronautics, and our goal today is to make an efficient, autonomous mining drone that can carve out tons of resources for a player without them having to lift a finger. Okay, well, maybe one button press to start the whole thing off. So now it's time for the boring part of the video. Not that kind of boring, this kind. These new rock cutting wheels added by Aeronautics are very fun. They're actually in the off-road section of the menu. We have a bore head bearing and we have the rock cutting wheel itself. The way the bore head bearing works, it's like a mini contraption. You have to put storage and rock cutting wheels in front of it, and when it assembles, it will spin them. I've started off with 2 cutting wheels on each, nice and small. This seems good for a small drill or maybe a tiny tunnel bore. And as we go further along, I've attached more cutting wheels, which works less efficiently, but does carve out a much bigger space. And you can see that we're actually cutting into the ground at this point, so we need to raise these up. To make them more efficient, you can pair them up and use multiple bore head bearings, but as you can see, sometimes they do leave a block in the middle, which is less than ideal for us building a vehicle that's going to drive on its own, because it's just going to bump into this stone. I do like the idea of using multiple rock cutting wheels. I think it cuts out a slightly bigger space and gives us a little bit more room to work with the drill behind them, whilst also not having to manage quite so many inventories if we had 3 or 4 bore head bearings. But this is currently very wide, so I'm wondering what happens if we overlap them. Let's put them up a little higher so they're not breaking the ground. If I build one vertically and the other horizontally, hopefully they're not going to overlap when they spin. Oh, that looks cool. I love that they're spinning but not clipping into each other. That looks really nice, actually. That's the kind of area they mine out. Still a really nice big area for us to get a drill in behind them, but we are still leaving this block in the middle. Let's bring them in one closer together. That is taking out the block in the middle. That is very useful. That gives us a really nice area for our drill to pass through without being too big and bulky and taking up a lot of space. Why am I so concerned with making this compact when we could, like the regular Create drills, just make a massive wall of these? Well, for one, they actually use stress units, and they're more expensive than regular drills. But there's also another secret reason, which we'll get to in a little bit. But before we get to that, let's have a think about how we're going to get the resources out of these tunnel bores. I'd like to try and use the new auger shaft, which allows you to put items into a tube. I suppose it's a shaft. And when it's given rotation, it will convey items along the length of that shaft, and then you can extract them at the other end. I wonder how far they go. Hey! That is a really long way. I'm not sure if we can take items directly out the back of these bore head bearings, but I'm hoping that the advantage of using these slightly bigger ones, and therefore having them higher up, is that we can put a vault in on top of a wheelbase, and then just put chutes directly underneath, and that should pull the items out of here and into the vault. Let's give these some power. Are they moving in the right direction? No. Yes, there's cobblestone coming through. Okay, great. So these will, in fact, pull out the back of the bore heads. I wasn't sure if it was going to work with these. That is very useful. This system is going to be a very easy way to collect all of our resources. The next step in making the auto miner is figuring out how we're going to make it move. When I started this project, I was imagining something that would leave a docking station, traverse backwards and forwards through a space, mining out the rocks, and then navigate back to the docking station using the navigation table added by Aeronautics. With that in mind, I designed this system, which I think is a super neat way of handling track turning. And I'm opting for tracks because 1, they're really stable, B, we can fit things much lower to the ground, which keeps our center of mass lower. And well, C, I just think they look cool. By using just 2 directional gear shifts and a couple of redstone links, we can actually get full turning control of these tracks. If I press forwards, both tracks move forwards. The same for backwards. If I want to turn left, our left track runs backwards and our right track runs forwards, and the opposite if we want to go right. So now if we turn this into a physics object, you can see we can actually spin on the spot. Oh, that's super cool. And all we're doing is passing our signal from our link controller here to these corner redstone links. When we want to go forwards, we activate this one, it activates green and red, and the opposite for going backwards. And then these corners activate one forwards and one backwards. It's such a tidy system, you could fit this in so many different places. I can't keep a secret for long. We're actually not going to use this turning system at all. I just wanted to show you it because it's really neat. While designing this turning mechanism, I realized we could just use the turntable. Whilst this system is really neat and does allow us to make really tight on-the-spot turns, the redstone actually gets a lot more complicated if we want the machine to be able to do it automatically. So why don't we just put our machine on a turntable? With this new method in mind, we don't need to resort to lots of complicated redstone. The mining drone can just drill forwards. Once its vault fills up, it just drives backwards onto the turntable turns, and the drill moves off again. Now we have our drills, and we've decided how we're going to move this thing. Let's build it. I actually think these look a lot cooler than the regular Create drills. We've got the same setup of rock cutting wheels at the front as we did earlier, with a little bit of overlap in the middle to take care of those blocks in the center, and everything is being fed through auger shafts into a max size 2x2 vault, which can store, I think, about 400 stacks. That's a lot of items. And everything is sitting on a belt track system that is all run through a directional gear shift. Because remember, we only need to move forwards and backwards now. It's all powered through this level 3 boiler here, which seems to be missing its shaft. Let me just pop those back in. We have a single steam engine at the bottom, which is responsible for powering our tracks. And at the top, we have 2 in sequence, which powers the drills and the deployers, well, and pretty much everything else. And the boiler is being fed its coal by a mechanical arm. That's why we have 4 blaze burners under here, to give us a little wiggle room in case this mechanical arm is a little slow in feeding any of them. There's also a second mechanical arm at the front, which is responsible for feeding whatever bridge building blocks you're using to the deployers. I'd really wanted to do the bridging part of this design with mechanical rollers. I thought they would look much cooler, but for the life of me, I can't get them to work with Aeronautics contraptions. We have a little Aeronautics motor here, which is responsible for jump-starting the boiler. You can see if I put a little bit of coal in here, that should start the pump working, and our mechanical arm, if it had any coal, would start feeding the blaze burners. And that gets the whole boiler up to speed, which seems... oh, the tanks seem to be broken. Okay, there's a problem with the schematic there. Let me fix that. Oh no. Our lower steam engine is controlled by this speed controller here, so that we can move our tracks very slowly. Remember, we need to move very slowly in order for the mining drills to mine all the blocks out before we move through them. And there's a second speed controller up here, so we can get full speed drills and deployers. And if we pop our contraption diagram on here, we can see I haven't made it a physics object. We can see that our centre of mass is sitting quite far forward on our tracks, and I'd really like that to be sitting a little bit further back, somewhere here, possibly even a little lower, just to make this drill super stable, because these drills are very heavy and they are sat quite far in front. That's much better. It's almost central to the tracks now, and I think that's a way better balance for the drill, and we don't even have any of the decoration on yet. I'd like to put a little system up here that will void off some of the unnecessary blocks we don't want, like cobble or cobbled deep slate. If we pop a couple of funnels on the auger shafts here and make little lava puddles underneath, and then I pop a threshold switch here, we can use this threshold switch as a buffer to keep a small number of bridging blocks in the vault, but not filling up valuable space that could be used for goodies like iron and andesite. There's a part of this design that I am really proud of. If we put funnels here and here, I've actually set the docking connector up in such a way that we can use our tracks as belts to take items in and out of the vault. When we set the redstone up in a moment, you'll see when we're running forwards, our vault is obviously empty and filling up. But when the vault is full, i.e. we want to take items out of it, the drill is going to be driving backwards onto the platform anyway, which means it's already set up to take things out. Let's get some redstone in here. On the right, a system that determines whether the mining droid should move forwards or backwards depending on how full the vault is. And on the left, a system to change our speed based on whether we're moving forwards or backwards. I think we've done everything that we need to do to make this drill work autonomously on the drill end, so now we get to decorate it. And here it is, a fully decorated mining drone. I know it still looks very boxy. We are quite limited with how much we can come outside the bounds of this box because obviously we need it to fit through the hole that the drills are making. But I am really happy with some of the details that we've managed to put in. There's this little arm cannon thing on the side here. I really like using copper bulbs on these pipes like this. This looks great, kind of looks like lava going through. And I've encased the arms to make them look a little bit more industrial. The only problem is you can't really do anything with the gearboxes at the end because as soon as these start to spin, they just break the panel that's here. Look at it go. Oh, it looks so cool. It would be so funny to just be busy in the world and suddenly this goes past you, digging out the tunnel, and you're like, oh, hey, how's it going? Now that the drill is decorated, we can move on to the next stage, which is designing the turntable. But I have a little confession to make. There is, in fact, another secret in this video, and that is the code that you need to unlock the schematic. I give all my schematics away for free on this channel, and I will give away a decorated and an undecorated version of this drill for everybody. You just have to solve the code to get access to it early. It's just a little fun game we play. Have a look for the code. This time, it is a tricky one. Now let's make this turntable. And this is what our turntable looks like. Oh, and this is what it looks like underneath. The turntable itself is glued with regular super glue and is attached via this swivel bearing, and I've currently got the sequence gear shift set up to turn it by 18 degrees, so that would be 20 turns to do a full rotation. But you could set this angle to anything depending on how finely you wanted to mine out the area that you were in. I might have been a little too eager to decorate. It was making it a little bit hard to see what was going on. So we're back with the undecorated version so we can see inside. As it pulls into the platform, we're using this modulating linked receiver that's added by Aeronautics to detect when our threshold switch is putting out a signal. You can see if I invert the signal and turn it on, this is activated and our docking connectors get activated. I'm having to use rose quartz lamps here to power the docking connector because, well, redstone links seem to be behaving like they do on vanilla create contraptions with simulated contraptions when they're assembling or disassembling, which means that redstone link is very briefly disabled and then re-enabled again, which can either double pulse things or, in this case, disconnects the docking connector, which meant our mining drill was disconnected and it was flying all over the place. Let's imagine that the drill has been out and filled up its vault full of resources. It's now backed up into the docking connector and connected, and it would be running backwards. So let's just turn this on, and we can see, oh, the other drill's still live. Let me lock that. Now with our boiler active, you can see that this belt is actually pulling all of our resources out of this vault, and all of the resources should be coming out of the drill and into these big vaults. Look at all these lovely goodies. Steve, how did you get in there? Under here we have two circuits. This smaller one just waits for our docks to be fully connected and for our threshold switch on the drill to be empty. If we're fully docked and the vault is empty on the drill, that means it's ready to go. And so all this circuit does is call the other circuit. This circuit is responsible for sending the drill on its way. First it turns the turntable, then it triggers a deployer behind the drill to jumpstart the engine. Coal is loaded onto the drill from a dedicated fuel vault. The drill is then driven off the platform whilst its deployers are deactivated so that it doesn't place any stone in between the turntable and the resting platform. And then finally, control is given over to the drill and off it goes. I think it's time we give this a go, don't you? I'm sure it's going to work first time. Ah, that's not very good. It turns out that when deployers are placing blocks from a physics contraption to the world, they have to be able to connect that block to something in the world. If it places the block in the air, it actually attaches the block to the physics contraption, which stops the drill from bridging, and it will get stuck. And they find this quite difficult when they're working at smaller angles and less aligned with the world grid. To remedy this, I set the deployers up on timers, set to place blocks in line with the speed of the drill. And after playing around with the timings, discovered that having two deployers placing slightly offset from each other, we were able to build bridges even on very different angles. With our bridging fixed, let's give this another go. It seems that our little mechanical belts can't clear even the tiniest little bit of incline and are really struggling with the gap between the turntable and the platform. I tried all sorts of things, including building temporary trapdoor platforms, using copycat slopes. How are you stuck there? None of it worked, and so I'd like to introduce you to Create Tracks. It's an add-on for Aeronautics, which I quite frankly think is essential if you're going to be playing around with vehicles in the mod. Not only does it add proper tracks for your vehicles, it adds the suspension key, a handy little tool that lets you edit all sorts of properties of both the tracks and the Aeronautics wheels. So after a little bit of redesigning, I managed to get the miner back on the road. We have an auto miner. You could set this thing off and it will go off into the world and mine blocks for you. It bridges across gaps and dumps its storage off. I just think it looks really, really neat. Obviously, I think you should combine this with a chunk loader so that you can really tear apart your worlds. And whilst I was tempted to call this project complete and end the video here, I actually have a little something else that I want to try. Remember at the beginning of the video when I was standing in front of that vehicle graveyard? Well, the eagle-eyed amongst you might have spotted this. It's my first attempt at building an Aeronautics lift. But Woodchuck, you might be asking, why would we need a lift? This is why. Secret number 3, which is really not much of a secret by this point, I'm sure it's probably even in the thumbnail, we are going to launch this mining drone from an airship. You see, I haven't been completely honest about my goal for this video. I want to push Aeronautics to its limit and build a giant flying megabase, equipped with various different vehicles like this mining drone that can be sent out into the world to gather resources. This is a huge undertaking, which is why I think we should design each of the modules individually and then bring them all together in a separate video at the end. I'd love to build this in survival, but I'm not quite sure Aeronautics is there yet, and it doesn't have to be an airship. I'm just using the generators at createmod.com to make a placeholder that we can launch this thing from today. I need your ideas as to what the actual megabase is going to look like. What kind of vehicles should we put on it? Let me know down in the comments. This was actually my first time making an airship, so I went a little overboard and put 6 steam engines, each with 9 steam vents, which turned out to be a little too much lift for the balloon. Oh, no, come back! I've designed a really rudimentary gyro stabilizing system, making 6 pockets in the big balloon itself, and altering the power to the steam vents based on the output from our gyro. With no idea whether that would actually stabilize the ship, I installed the turntable inside the hull and started to build out the systems that were going to drop this whole module into the Earth. Ooh, creaky. Which just about brings us to now. The plan, which I haven't tested at all yet, is that on input from the player, our hull will open up. Okay, good, that bit works. Then our rope pulley drills are going to drop and they're going to start digging away at the ground. We're using the Aeronautics altitude sensor to set where we want those drills to go down to. So we can set our signal strength to be anywhere in this range. Our rope pulley drills are quite offset from where our miner is going to start mining. But I think it's a great way of determining the different levels that you want to mine at. It might just take a little bit of testing to figure out what value you need to put on the altitude sensor. While our rope pulley is drilling out a borehole, our turntable with our drill, which is not here yet, attached, is going to be slowly following down behind it. These docking connectors at the top will have disconnected, and this one will become active, so when it reaches our rope pulley, which should be turned back into blocks by this point, which is important because that's how we're going to align our turntable with the world grid. These docking connectors will connect up, which provides the signal for the turntable and the drill to start mining. Inside our turntable, I've added a few other bits of circuitry that are triggered by this threshold switch. This is the last volt in the sequence, so in theory, once this one is full up, that means all of our storage is being used up, and we need to send the module back up to the airship. You might also have noticed that there's 13 comparators in this vault, and that's because I keep getting this redstone duplicating bug. It's really frustrating. It's exactly why we're not doing this in survival just yet. Look at my inventory. It's just full of redstone components that keep getting duplicated on assembly and disassembly. Sometimes they're also duplicated as physical blocks, which block the contraptions from moving. It is getting a little bit frustrating. Anyhow, all the return circuit really does is spin our turntable back around until the redstone contacts line up and send everything back up. And that is about it. It's really quite simple. He says, having not tested it one little bit, I think we should give this a go. I was about to bring in our drill, but I've just realized it's a little bit big. I hadn't quite factored in how tall it is. It's coming well above the deck, so I think we might need to just open up this section for today, and we can figure that out when we come to the real deal. Time for another test. No problems with this one, okay? Oh dear. It seems that, like the deployers, other Create components don't work so well when they're not aligned with the world grid, and the drills on our rope pulley are missing blocks, which means that the rope pulley is getting stuck, and we can't send the turntable down after it. Oh, it did free itself. Oh, and it's gone. Oh no, oh no. Oh, but it's stabilizing. Oh, it works. Kind of. Well, at least we know the stabilization works. That was pretty good. But how are we going to fix this drill issue? By building a bigger one, of course. I figure we need to stop using Create parts intended for use on Create mod contraptions and start using the Aeronautics contraption stuff. So I've built a giant tunnel bore underneath our turntable. It's attached to the turntable, and it's actually so big that it led to me discovering something I didn't know about auger shafts. Our new downward tunnel bore is so massive that we're not pulling the items out of it quick enough with a single auger shaft. So I'm wondering, can we just connect 2 auger shafts up together? Or pop a creative motor in this funnel and hopefully it'll pop out of this funnel? Look, here it comes! That works. That's going to be really useful. Being able to connect our auger shafts up means we can pull stuff from the drill bore from the back, and we're also pulling stuff out of here into a second auger shaft that then pulls it up. Then we're dumping all of these resources into lava because we don't care about these. It is taking a level 6 boiler inside this turntable to power this drill, and a little dripstone lava farm to power it. You might notice it's also a lot busier in here because I have set up all the systems we need to drop this from an airship and pick it back up again. Because we no longer have our rope pulley that can align us to the world grid when we reach the bottom, we're actually going to have to disassemble the turntable when we reach our desired height. This causes no end of problems with the redstone sending out secondary signals when the physics body gets assembled and disassembled, and it also means there's a lot of duplication going on. Picking up the redstone. Oh, here's some more. Da, 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 da. Oh, there's so much. Look at this. This is crazy. Ah, I found you. Oh, another dupe. How have you flipped the entire turntable? When we assemble and disassemble the physics object, it actually cuts power to things like windmills, water wheels, and even the steam engine. So I've changed our turntable to run off this little Aeronautics motor here that's also being fed from our coal vault. And for the steam engine, I'm using these handy kinetic batteries added by Create Connected. I generally like to keep the mod list small for these projects so that people can access them easily, but Connected is one of those essential mods for dealing with vehicles, and I figure these are super useful. You can power the battery from the front and it stores charge, and then when you give it a redstone signal, it releases some of that charge, which makes them a really fantastic way to jumpstart a boiler. We can just send a little bit of power to the battery, and once the boiler is up and running, it will charge it back up. And it should all be ready to go. It has just occurred to me as I'm putting this onto the airship. I actually don't know how I would get this on in survival without the creative stuff, but I guess that's a problem for another day. With the drill on the turntable, we can finally find out whether we can drop this thing from an airship. It works. There's a very real part of me that is incredibly surprised that it did work, although it wasn't completely perfect. I did have to add a couple of drills to the front because we're still not quite breaking the blocks in the middle when we're on some of the very narrow angles. If we look at these tunnels, they've worked exactly as I was expecting. The drill has gone off at the different angles and it's carved out these nice straight tunnels and come back to the turntable. Those were the tunnels that I did yesterday. When I logged back in this morning, however, something seems to have changed, and every time that the drill is going straight, it works fine, but as soon as it goes off on an angle, it starts to slide, and it's sliding off the turntable. And I have no idea why. I haven't changed the thing. So I'm pretty prepared to call this a working prototype, and then hopefully when the Aeronautics bugs get fixed, I can figure out what I'm actually doing wrong with the machine and not what's just being caused by a bug. By the way, I also found another bug where the docking connectors were also being duplicated, but they were invisible, so I didn't even see them. There's definitely some tweaks and changes that we can make to make this work better, and to be honest, it's probably never going to run 100% perfectly. It does not deal with liquids very well, and also, it doesn't place any light sources. For some reason, deployers on the physics contraptions don't seem to want to place torches. I've actually lit this whole area up myself just so you could see what was going on, but I guess if it's an autonomous miner, you never actually have to go in the holes that it's made. You can just pick it back up and fly away. With that all being said, I think we've made some fantastic progress towards building a fleet of vehicles that can gather resources from the world. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a like. Comment your ideas for what we can do with this mega base. What is the mega base going to look like? What other vehicles can we put on it, and what resources can we gather? Subscribe if you're new and you want to see this journey progress. A huge thank you to our members for making these videos possible, and I will see you next time. Oh, this is making me feel sick. I don't like this. Let me out. Let me out. Let me out.